Okay, so it's a Friday night,
Thursday.
Thursday night,
Tuesday.
Tuesday night. It's after work. I am in a pretty chill, intense Call of Duty Warzone 2.0 session, and I hear the door open. I had known previously that Megan was walking Oreo as well as getting us food for the night. She comes in, and the look on her face, I am completely baffled by. I ask her what's wrong, and in the midst of it all, she breaks down in front of me and is really explaining to me how she was attacked by a deli cat. So, Tuesday, I had a pretty chill day at work. Took a lunch break to meet up with a friend to discuss a small side project thing we're working on together. I am call Megan as on my way home and decide or try and figure out what we're going to eat tonight.
And it was kind of an off night because it was Valentine's Day, and Maya,
Yes.
we got a phone call and said she was sick. We had to go pick her up from school. So Sam's coming back.
And that was the first time that she ever needed to be picked up from school.
Yeah, so we were a bit worried.
Yeah.
And I grabbed her from school. She didn't even want to walk home. She was so nauseous, so I'm carrying her on my back. And we tried to get through CVS, and we couldn't even stand through the line. She just wasn't having it. So we get her home, and I was pretty worried about her. She looked very pale, very sick. So our plans kind of got sidetracked. We were actually going to come home. We were going to make some heart-shaped pizzas, but we went to plan B, which was getting some Chipotle.
Yeah. Our stories kind of are separate until kind of convening later on at night. As I'm leaving my friend's house, I get home, I unpack, I just relax for a little bit, and then she decides to take Oreo and simultaneously go pick up some Chipotle. I'm playing Call of Duty, and I hear the door open and close. Right when she walks in, she lets me know exactly what happened. Maybe you want to...
I mean, let's just start by saying, like, what a deli cat is. Like,
Okay.
what's a bodega cat?
Okay. Well, I guess a bodega cat, which is now that I've kind of, like, spoken about this story to a few friends, I've kind of realized that a bodega cat is something that is a lot more of a fringe topic to talk about. There's a lot of feelings around it. Bodega cat is a cat that is the like the mascot of specific delis, and they are just around hanging out. I don't really know the true purpose of them. I'm sure it's to catch rats and to be a chill companion that hangs around the store. Other than that, I kind of grew up. I grew up in the city, so I've always seen them around. I've never really had an issue with them because maybe I've never had a dog, or I've never brought a dog into a deli that had a bodega cat. But this time it was pretty different. So this bodega cat we've known about it, but it's never really given us any issues.
No, not this one.
Oh,
this is the first time I've ever seen this one there. There was another one there. And, like, just backtrack real quick. It's interesting because this bodega cat, I know you said, like, companion. This one is not their companion. This one was strictly, like, they told me, strictly to kill mice and to kill rats. And so that's why it was there. This is the first time I've ever seen that cat, other than earlier in the day when I came in to try to get saltine crackers for Maya. And I didn't have Oreo at the time. But we came in there. I saw that cat. I was carrying Oreo in my arms, and I just stopped to get a few drinks. I was carrying Oreo in my arms, and I had to set him down for a second while I got the card out of my little bag to pay.
And this is before I even knew this, because this is fast forward when you were down at the place.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm there, and I set down the Oreo for a second, and this woman behind the counter says, "Just be careful of the cat." And about 2 seconds later, I see this cat charging at us, and it's screaming, and it slashes Oreo in his face with his paws. I grab Oreo. He's like freaking out and barking and trying to attack it back. And he's finally in my arms. And I am just feeling this immense amount of pain on my left leg. And I'm kicking and I'm screaming. And people in the store are screaming. And nobody can help. I was about less than a foot away from two guys, like big guys, muscular, big guys. And they were screaming. The second he flung off me, I don't even know. It just felt like a cartoon when there's a whirlwind of dust and you're just like spinning in circles. That's kind of what it reminded me of. After he was gone, the cat had run away. The guy looked at me and he's like, "You should have kicked that cat. You should have killed that cat." And I'm just like, I just want to pay for my drinks and get the fuck out of here. And the woman behind the counter is like, "See, I told you, like, I'm sorry, like, I told you." I'm just like, yo, fuck off. And I'm horrified. I grab Oreo and I walk back to our house, but I don't walk up the stairs. I don't go home immediately. I check out my leg and I'm bleeding. I check out Oreo and his face is bleeding. And I'm like, fuck. Before I went to that deli, I saw two cops. And they were kind of on some kind of like lookout. They were like a stakeout. They were looking and searching for somebody. And so I went back and they were still there. And I said, I told them what exactly just happened. And they're like, "Oh, damn, like it sucks because we can't really do anything about it." I said, like, "Should I be making a report? This has never happened to me before. I don't know what to do." And they said, "There's nothing you can do except really just call the Better Business Bureau and like make a report." And they sent me on my way. Then I went upstairs and as I'm climbing each step to get to our apartment, I just like keep welling up with so much more emotion because like my dog is hurt. You hurt my dog, like fuck me. Like I don't even care about myself at this point. Just like some little like innocent dog, like fuck. So I get into the house and that's kind of where your story starts.
You walk in and you kind of explain everything to me. And the moment that I like kind of heard what happened, I just got ready, got my things. Kind of when you told me that like nobody did anything, that's kind of when I don't know, I just rage, not really rage, but just anger, feeling like injustice, to be honest. I felt the need to just go down there and just speak my mind and just honestly like get a feel of what exactly went down there. And I went down there very angry. I'll just say that. I went down there very angry. I'd be curious to know if anybody has similar feelings to how I would feel. Somebody in your family kind of like is very distraught about something that happened about a few seconds ago at a place that you always go to. And I'd be curious to know what your guys' initial feelings would be, and if you guys would have maybe done similar things to what I did. And that is I went down to the deli and I instantly asked like what happened. I really made it very apparent to them that this is really serious, and I was very angry. My voice was elevated. All I wanted to know was who owned this cat and where this cat was. I told them that I was going to hurt the cat because I knew that the police weren't going to do anything. Cat caused somebody to bleed, a human and a dog, and I know that that's not okay. And I saw that cat and I said, "This is the cat." And the lady in the front desk screamed and told the busboy to put the cat away, and they did. And I'm sitting there just saying I'm not leaving until the person who owns this cat comes down to explain themselves, so we can talk this out, because the lady and the cook were saying that they didn't know this cat's not their responsibility. And I was telling them, "But you own the store, and if I were to steal something or if I were to buy something, you'd be in control of that. So technically anything in the store is your responsibility, and you have to take care of that." And they kept saying, no, it wasn't me. I was just kind of really angry at this point. And I had told them, I'm not really quite sure how you do it in your country, but in here, dogs are not allowed, or cats are not allowed to hurt people. And right now, this woman is bleeding from her leg, and that's not okay. The manager ended up coming because this lady made a phone call, and he comes and he's kind of asking what's the problem, looking around like he's about to fight somebody. And at this moment, I saw this happening because I had already left after they told me that the owner would come back in the morning. And he comes in and I see him outside, and I said, okay, cool. If he's looking to fight somebody, then here I am. And so I walked right back in and I said, yep. He was in the middle of asking the lady, is this the guy? And the lady's like, yeah. And I'm like, yep, I'm here. So what was it that you'd like to talk to me about? Because I'm really upset. You can't have a cat that does that. It's dangerous. It's not okay. And he said, chill. It's not that big of a deal. And I'm like, well, it kind of is. And I would think that you're a spineless, ballless man if you were just to be okay with having your wife or your sister or your daughter get treated this way and not do anything about it. And he was kind of at a loss of words. And I told him that there are dogs every day, they get put down for things like this. And so therefore I wanted to see your cat so I could hurt it the way that it hurt my dog. And I know that's totally not, in hindsight, mature thing to say or do or act, but I was in a very fight or flight mode. I felt the overwhelming desire to protect, and I felt cornered and I felt helpless. And so he ended up lightening up and saying, look, like, you're one of my favorite customers. I'm so sorry that this happened. We don't have this cat around anymore, and we'll put up a sign. Because he had said, well, dogs shouldn't be in here. And I'm like, but where's the sign? There's no sign that's saying that can't be. And I see dogs in here all the time.
And that's a very common thing for New York City. Like, if there's no dogs allowed or animals allowed, you'll see a sign.
Yeah.
And that's up to you if you want to be respectful or not. But when there's places that say, like, no dogs allowed, we're not taking our dog there. Like, out of respect.
Yeah. And what's wild is that he kind of calmed down, but I didn't know this at the time. But apparently within my ranting and raving, 2 cops, the same cops that spoke to Megan earlier, showed up behind me. And I didn't know the gravity of how potentially dangerous the situation was until one of the cops behind the main cop had his hand on the holster of his gun, very concerningly. And that was one of the first things that I noticed. And I was kind of taken back a little bit because I was like, wow, that's
pretty serious.
Yeah, that's pretty serious. But what comforted me, I suppose, was the other cop who was kind of a little bit in front of him, kind of talking, and he had very sympathetic, empathetic eyes. And he the first thing he said was, I totally understand how you're feeling right now. It's completely, like, understandable. Cat can't be doing that. Unfortunately, like I had told the girl that I'm sure that you know, which is why you came in there, that we can't do anything about it. But just, when you see her, just tell her to put some alcohol swabs on it to make sure it doesn't get infected. And I said, okay, I will. And I kind of walked away because there was really nothing else I could do. And I felt I overstayed my welcome. And it was quite embarrassing as I was walking back to our apartment because the whole restaurant was looking at me as if I was some kind of baboon. It was quite embarrassing, and definitely it's very cringy when I think about it. But, I'd wonder if anybody else would have done the same or felt the same or could have understood, because the kind of responses that we got based on that were very concerning. And it really hit home in a lot of areas in my heart about how I feel about the place that we live, the neighborhood that we live in New York City. I grew up thinking that the Upper West Side was a better place, that there were more humble, empathetic people who lived here. I wanted to believe that. But based on some of the responses that we got of the story that we had told, showed differently. And it's quite sad.
And what ended up happening while Sam went there, I stayed home because Maya was here. And even if Maya wasn't here, I don't think I would have gone back, just because I was actually really shaken up. I've never been attacked by a cat. I've never been in an altercation with another animal. Oreo's been attacked before, but I haven't been, and I've been able to take control of that situation and break it up where the animal didn't come after me too. and backstory, like, I don't like cats. I've never been fond of cats. They honestly freak me out because of how sneaky they are. They're quiet. They're very unexpected, I would say. I just don't know what they're thinking. I am not used to them, not used to being around them. I was on the phone with my mom, and she said, "Oh my God, Sam went down there. Like, what do you think he's saying?" And I said, "I know that he's asking to see the cat because he's gonna kill the cat." And it was very crazy when Sam came back upstairs, and I feel like you're giving everybody like a G-rated version of what happened, which is all right, because it was very scary. There was a lot of emotions, I think, that just were unexpected, and I think in these situations you have no idea how you're going to feel until it actually happens. You have no idea what you're going to say or think or anything until somebody gets hurt that you love, or just in general somebody gets hurt, and then it's like this fight or flight, and it's very overwhelming. But when Sam came back home, we had a little bit of dinner, talked for a bit, and then I decided that I really wanted to just let other people know, because God forbid somebody else brings an animal in there that they love, or at this point if it's kind of attacking humans too, like, just let people know. And so there's a group who are in this neighborhood, and I posted on the group, and I just had like explained kind of what happened in hopes that people would kind of just maybe be like, "Oh, thanks for letting me know," kind of thing. I wasn't really looking for praise or anything, and I knew that there were going to be people who were not very nice, but I did not expect the amount of like indecency that I got back. And I think that's what really kind of, I had like 2 or 3 mental breakdowns this week because of it. I had no idea I would take these things so personally, and I did my best not to. A lot of people called me a liar. A lot of people blamed me for bringing my dog there. A lot of people stood up for me though too, which was nice, but it's hard to see those comments based on other people being just so brutal to you. And I would love to read them or respond back to them, but I just made a comment back on the post and just said that specifically, while I would love to address these comments one by one, this was more for other people. I just hope that, this doesn't happen to anybody else, and this was more of a warning than a discussion. And yeah, that was it.
And, like I said, an opinion from somebody who grew up here, I'd like to say born here. This place is all I know. I'm really, disgusted, to be honest, by the responses back, because, I do everything to really, okay, let me take it back. I have a lot of social problems. I have a hard time being sociable, and I don't know if it's a product of living in the city and, that kind of don't speak your mind, just look forward, try not to make eye contact, just do your thing. Growing up more into an adult, I've kind of embodied that more. So for better or for worse, I know that it's not something I want to be. I want to be more talkative. I want to be more approachable. But I do have a hard time with that, and I do struggle with that. I don't want people to think that I'm somebody who is sketchy or who is weird to be around, because I know that happens sometimes, and I feel really badly. I beat myself up about it every night when I go to bed, and when I think about the day, those are things that run through my mind, and I just feel bad about it. I really want to be a better person for that, and the reason why I say this is it kind of makes me not want to be a better person for the responses that, somebody who I love received based on something that they had, that what really affected them. And they, came on this platform with all good intentions. And a lot of it was met with just very shallow, non-thoughtful, not empathetic or sympathetic at all, joking like responses. And, it just, I'm biting my initial feelings of what I would want to do, because what I would want to do is kind of treat them how they treated me, which is if I see anything, or if I see anybody ask for help, or if I see any potential event that I could help for the better for somebody else who lives in the city, I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to at all. I'd say, well, I remember that time when you laughed at me. So here's a big middle finger to you, because an eye for an eye. But I'm trying to, not let those like initial feelings get the best of me. And I'm trying to still believe, which, like Megan said earlier, there were good comments and positive comments. And I want to be a better person for those people, for the people who are decent people here, like my mom, and people like my mom who don't want conflict, who just want to live their lives, who want to have a good time, who want to have friends, and who don't want violence or any kind of negativity in their neighborhood. They want a peaceful neighborhood so they can just relax and just live their life. And that's what doing. Yeah. But it really questions me. It really opened my eyes to the level of insensitive responses were given. I thought that, it would have been like 80-20, but it felt more like 50-50 almost, or like 60-40. Very, very even. And I was very surprised by that.
Yeah. It was super, I don't know. It was interesting. I was just really glad that the next day, which was Wednesday, I had therapy because I really needed it. I woke up the next day. I slept in. I didn't wake up at 4. I was still really sad. I woke up and I went to urgent care because there's a lot of comments on there that said you should really get a shot. You should really just get it checked out. And I was like, I guess I never thought of it. But then when you think of what a bodega cat is, and if that's their sole purpose is to kill rodents, then...
Yeah, what really got me is when you were like, yeah, they got the cat to kill rodents. And thinking how dirty rats are.
Yeah.
And just to think that cat might have had rat blood on their claws or something.
Yeah, because I got bit and I got scratched. So when I went to the doctor's office, he gave me a tetanus shot, and then he also gave me a big, huge dose of antibiotics just in case. Because what else I learned is, I guess there's this kind of sickness that you can get from cats. I don't remember what it was called, but it's from scratches, and it's this bacterial thing, and it's pretty bad. So he was hoping that would help it. He said that he was curious if the cat had rabies because it attacked a human as well. And obviously it went after me because I had Oreo still in my arms at the time, but I didn't know if it had its rabies shot or not. So that morning he told me I should probably check and find out. So after the doctor's office, I ran straight to the bodega and I asked, if the owner was there, and they said no, but they'll be back later in the day. And I went to my therapy session, and I was, explaining to her everything that happened, and I could not even put a name to my emotions at the time. I was so up and so down and so mad and so sad and manic and overwhelmed with so many feelings. I really couldn't speak normally. I was all over the place. And she had me kind of do this breathing exercise with her, which really helped me and helped calm me down and realize that all of these feelings are just a bottled up feelings of sadness. Like, I was so sad that people thought I was lying. I was so sad that people thought that it was all my fault and that they were really worried about the cat and they wanted to go check up on the cat because I must have hurt the cat and all of these things. And it doesn't even matter. Like, thinking about the comments now or in hindsight are kind of, it's sad, but it's like whatever. But I didn't really have a choice but to go back again at 2 o'clock that day to talk to the owner, and that was an interesting conversation. I recorded the conversation because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to be too angry or too emotional. I just wanted to make sure that I 100% had my initial thought was, does your cat have its rabies vaccine? That was my initial thought. And when I spoke to him, I tried to leave 3 times. I was going to walk away 3 times because I guess I'll kind of break it down. So I walked in, I was like, hey, like I was the one who got attacked yesterday. Just curious, like I was at the doctor's office and they gave me a shot and antibiotics and they just wanted to find out if, your cat was vaccinated for rabies. And he's like, oh, yeah, for sure. And I was like, oh, can I have proof? And that really caught him off guard. And he's like, I mean, yeah, I don't have it on me right now. But if you come, like, I don't know, like maybe like I can find it later. And I said, okay, like cool. So I'll come back tomorrow and you can show me. And he's like, yeah. So I walked out. I started walking out and I was like, all right, cool. As I get to the door and I push the door open, he's like, hey, but you should probably just go get checked anyways. And I said, hey, but like, that's why I would like to know if your cat has its rabies shot or not, because I don't want to go to the emergency room. And he's like, oh, okay. And I was like, cool, so I'll just come back tomorrow. And as I'm walking out the door again, he goes, oh, well, like I would probably just go to make sure. And I said, yeah, but guess what? It's going to be like a $200 copay if I go. And he's like, oh, no worry. It's okay. Like, I'll check it out. Like, I'll pay for it. And then I turned around and I was like, look, it's about my time too, because you want to go into a New York City ER. You're planning on being there for possibly up to 8 hours. And I don't really want to do that. So if you have the papers and I can come back tomorrow to look at them and have proof, then I will feel a lot better. And then obviously we agreed and I left. But it made me feel uneasy because then I walked out thinking, all right, well, you don't really know this person. He could just go get papers from somebody else, or, because I have to get papers for Oreo when I travel. And that's, to be honest, that's very easy to Photoshop if I needed to. I don't need to because he has his rabies and all his other shots, but it would be. So it kind of caught me off guard that he said to just go anyways. He didn't care about the money, so I thought, this dude probably doesn't have paperwork. So I go a few days without, I guess, thinking twice about it. I mean, I was thinking twice about it, but I just kind of wanted to ignore it because at this point I was a little distraught. I'm thinking I have to go to the emergency room. Only to find out, like, after talking to 2 doctors, they led me to a 311 call, which led me to poison control. Poison control said if you have no proof, then you need to go to the emergency room because that's the only place to get a vaccine. It's not offered anywhere else. The CDC should have been involved, like all of this crazy shit. And my mom really pushing me to go. I finally ended up going on Saturday morning. I think it was Saturday or Sunday morning. And that was kind of a process in itself because the doctor there didn't think that I needed it, said it was less than a 1 in a million chance of getting rabies. But because I got bit on my leg, he said, I'm really happy you got bit on your leg because if you got bit anywhere close to your heart or your brain, then you wouldn't have any time to decide. But now you have more time to decide just in case. And I just thought, like, this is so, I don't even know what to think at this point because, yes, it's like way less than 1 in a million, but for the time to get it, there's no going back. I can't get the rabies. I can't just take some medicine and it'll go away. So I was on the phone with my mom and I had told her what happened, and she was kind of perplexed because everywhere you look online, obviously it tells you to go in and get it. And I ended up just walking up to the doctor who was talking to multiple doctors at the time about me and the situation. And I just said, look, I'm going to need you to point me into the right direction because you're saying no. Everybody else, multiple other doctors have said yes, that I should get it. And he just said, like, basically just said, I think it'll make you feel better. I think it'll make you sleep better at night. So maybe you should just get it. And then I got it, but didn't realize that it was a 5-shot process that I'm going to have to go back to the emergency room in total 5 times.
Yeah, you said it was really painful.
Yeah.
Like they did it right on your, right on the cuts, around your cuts.
Yeah, so they give you a vaccine. The first one's in your left arm or whatever arm you want. And then the other one was a giant vial.
I want to look that up.
It was really big. And they said, he came in, he said, this is not going to feel good. There's a lot of pressure involved because there's a lot of fluid inside of the shot. We're going to start actually right next to where you got bit. And I was like, okay, cool. Like thinking, because I've had so many, not so many surgeries, but because I've had surgery before, because I've had multiple IVs, multiple hospital visits, multiple times I've got my blood done, I thought this wasn't really going to be that big of a deal. But because there was so much fluid in it, it couldn't go all in one like shot, I guess. And then he lifted that one and he put it into another one right next to another bite mark. And it hurt really, really bad. I'm pretty good at taking pain, but this was like in another level. I just was like, all right, you can stop. And then he said the rest, which it wasn't even halfway done, needed to go into my other arm. And that was just as painful, if not more. And yeah, it was a bummer. Would not recommend to my worst enemy. That was very painful. And I just sat there. I mean, the whole hospital visit was kind of a mess. They gave me the wrong discharge papers. They gave me it for some alcoholic who came in for problems. I don't know. I didn't even check myself out. I just walked out of the emergency exit because at that point I just felt very overwhelmed. I was there for about 4 or 5 hours just waiting because obviously the rabies vaccine it's not something they do on a daily basis. So they kept saying, we have to get it from the pharmacy. We have to get it from the pharmacy. I have no idea what that means. Like, did somebody just make a batch perfectly for me? Like, I have no idea. But it took them like a few hours. And yeah, I just kind of chilled there and I was reading and just listening to other people in the ER have their deals, their problems. And yeah, it was interesting. But now I go back again on Tuesday and
yeah, like moral of the story is, if you have a dog, just be careful when you're in delis, because you have no idea where this cat is. And I grew up in the city and I never really liked cats, but they never really bothered me in the stores. But I don't know, I guess I never chose a side, because I know apparently that there are a lot of people out there who really hate the bodega cats, but the people who love them far outnumber the people who don't. And I am now one of those minorities, which nothing new in my life. Do not like them. I just think they're pretty dangerous.
But I guess kind of going back to what you're saying earlier is like, that was the number one thing, I guess, that really bothered me is I feel like I've lived my life pretty honest, and I feel like I've tried to do everything to do things the right way, so to speak. Whatever that means in your eyes is try to do things the right way. Try to be a good, like, kind person. Although I can get, like, angry, I do my best.
I guess the best way to think about that is, treat people how you want to be treated. Because how you want to be treated is very, particular, and it's very, I guess, you wouldn't want people to beat up on you. You want people to not listen to you. You wouldn't want people to be there for you and to help you out.
And like when you see somebody down and out and struggling, that you help them out, because that's what I always try to do.
And so therefore you'd hope that people would do the same for you.
Yeah.
When you're in your time of need.
And that was where the first, like, mental breakdown came from, was that I was just like, all right, like, when is our lease up? Like, I'm leaving. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, you probably have to stay here talking to Sam
because of Maya. And on a completely relevant note, too, I totally kind of understand a little bit more about, like, how, more people of notoriety feel when when there's a whole community bashing them for something that they did, it really can get to them.
Yeah.
For instance, like the first time I'm thinking about is like Derek Carr. A lot of people have some negative things to say about him, and
when they come for him though, they come for him.
Yeah, and he gains new respect in my book for how he is able to just he says he only answers to the Lord, the true God. Jesus Christ himself, and I respect that he can confide in his religion to help him, rise above all the people who want to bring him down.
Yeah.
And because, like you can understand, it can really get to you. It can really break you down.
In a way you never thought it would. Because these are complete and utter
and now
strangers.
I can totally see why somebody could really hurt themselves.
Yeah.
Because of all these mean words that people have no idea.
And the problem is, like, when I look back at it, like, I have a pretty good support system, but I didn't really reach out to anybody except my mom and you. And not to say you guys didn't do a good enough job, but when I, like, get sad and depressed, like, I don't really talk. I don't really like to talk about it. I don't really talk. And so then as the days went, came past and I talked a little bit about it to other people and realized like I have more people on my side, that I should have reached out to when I was feeling ridiculous and overwhelmed, and like that I was just going to run away and like get me and Oreo like a one-way ticket somewhere to get the fuck out of here, because I felt like it's so draining. I felt like it's so hard to just have a normal conversation with somebody here because everybody is just so fucking mean. Like that's what my head was just kind of gearing towards. And yeah, it's definitely what you said is other people who go through that. It's very...
Yeah, and like growing up in the city, I don't know if anybody else grew up in this can relate to me, but I feel as though I fought my whole life here. I fought to exist. I fought for people to respect me, physically and emotionally. You really got to say something. It's a quintessential like New York kind of mentality where a car gets too close and you're like, hey, I'm walking here, kind of with an attitude, not just kind of like back off. This is me. This is my area.
And it's almost really like people don't like. It sucks when you feel as if you have to be mean to be heard. It sucks when you have to like almost feel like you're bashing somebody for people to hear you out or for people to even acknowledge your existence, because that's kind of what I feel here. And it's what I do like about it is it's very far and few in between, but I do make small friends on the side. Like with Oreo specifically, me and him met this woman, and she's older and she's retired. She's from Italy. And we just met one time because Oreo really loved her and jumps up on her and likes to say hi in the mornings. I used to see her every single morning. And then she told me her name and where she lived. And then we started talking about her dog. And so that day the day after I actually saw her. And she's like, I haven't seen you this week. Like, it's actually really stressing me out. Like, are you okay? Is your dog okay? And that made me so happy. Like, I almost started crying. So I'm like, oh shit, like, more or less like somebody cares or somebody's looking out, or like we do have friends in the city kind of thing. Like it was nice. So yeah, that was interesting. And I think another thing that really was not a good timing for this was, I got my period. So I was like super PMSing at the time, and like I think that led to like my second mental breakdown last week. I don't know, man. It was so overwhelming, and even talking about it, I'm getting kind of drained just because it's a lot.
I felt like that meme where there was a person at a picnic, and he's slapping everybody. They're all their friends like, hey, you can't do slap. What's wrong with slap? That one where it's like he just slaps them.
Just keep slapping.
That's how I felt about everybody who said something negative about the situation. I came from a very like defensive place. I would fight the whole world, for the injustice that I felt about what happened, as little as it might be. All I just saw was somebody bleeding, and I saw red. That's all I did. I saw red. I saw somebody who like doesn't make. I understand me. I'm a hothead. I can be a feisty mother effer, But with you, you err a lot more on the side of caution, and you err more on a lot more on the side of not saying anything because you don't want problems. So the fact that something like that happened to you made me even more enraged, because just like, how could why you, why not me, in that sense. And yeah, I took it kind of petty because I go look on I look on how much it costs to own a deli, and I saw an area for rent up on the Upper West Side. It's like $170 a month per square foot. $170 per square foot, and I'd say that place is 100 square feet, so it's about $85,000 a year for rent. Just that's just for rent. That's not even restocking all the stuff. It's like $120,000 a year just for rent, and I just kind of calculated how much I potentially give them a year, and that adds, honestly,
used to go there daily.
That adds up to $12,000 to $15,000 a year. So because of this altercation, they lost $12,000 to $15,000 a year.
That's way too much money.
Yep. So therefore, I feel better. Because we
haven't really gone back, and to be honest, like, I never went back to figure out if he had papers or not, because at the root of it, I don't know this person and I don't trust him. Therefore, I don't give a fuck if you show me these papers or not.
Yeah, and it's like, with all due respect, I don't respect you guys because I simply came in here wanting to speak to the owner. I was rowdy and stuff, and with my words, not with my actions at all. And the fact that, the manager or owner came in and almost fought me for something that very well was in his, control, was just very inappropriate. That's the best word I can say. It was just inappropriate. Didn't even hear me out once.
Honestly,
and what's
interesting,
interesting is that they called you.
Yeah.
And they were very nervous. And I know that they looked at the cameras and they saw how crazy that happened, how crazy that was.
And that was
all they needed. All they needed was somebody to go in there, police to go in there, and look at that stuff.
Yes.
And they couldn't, and they would get in trouble if they deleted that. I know that you get in trouble if you delete footage like that, because that's like that could be a potential lawsuit.
Mm-hmm. He told me that when I went to go ask, when I talked to him that day, he told me he saw it.
I mean, you could sue them.
And that's why after he told me he saw it, he's like, yeah, I mean, it just attacked the dog. It's not that big of a deal. And I guess the type of people, like this guy, his background, without coming at them, his background isn't, he doesn't like animals. They don't think of them as like pets or somebody who you love or anything, but like, yo, my dog is like one of my best friends. So damn, that killed me so badly when he kept saying like, it's just a dog, it's not that big of a deal, like control your animal.
And that's what enraged me, which is why I don't know who you talked to, but the same guy I was talking to, or a guy that I was talking to, was just like, yo, relax, it's just a dog. And I told him, I don't give to be honest with you, I said, I'm going to be man to man with you. I don't give a fuck about that dog. I don't give a fuck about that dog, Oreo. What I give a fuck about is that cat hurt a human being. And dogs get put down for that. Mm-hmm. So where's that cat? Where's that cat at? Yeah. Like, seriously, like, where is that cat? And then the cops showed up, and then that was history for me. But
there was 3 different people, I think, involved. The person you were dealing with, the person I talked to the next day, and then there was like 3 missed phone calls on my phone because I had called down to the deli to see like what time the owner was coming through. And then another owner, his brother, had called to apologize. He didn't realize that I actually got cut too and bit. So yeah, just a lot of back and forth.
And that's why I told the guy that it wasn't about the dog. He needed to. The reason why I said it like that is he needed to understand that it's not about the dog.
Yeah, because I had repeated that too to the guy on the phone because he once again like was like, it's just not that big of a deal. It's just 2 animals. But I'm like, yo, like this isn't. And like I don't expect everybody to understand. Just like I don't expect to like now I genuinely understand when people are like shooken up like about something and I'm like, damn, like it's not that big of a deal. Now I understand, because in hindsight, if you look at this from the outside and you're like, oh, you just got like a little bite and a scratch from a deli cat, like it's not that big of a deal. But like how I took that was a very big deal. Like I spiraled into a fucking bout of depression for a week.
I mean, and to think that, you know, I was at a park with my daughter on something similar, and you know, a boy that was 2 years older than my daughter made my daughter cry, and because of that, you know, I was ready to fucking punch this son's mother in the face by the way that she was approaching the situation, by saying that my daughter should know better to mess with her son, and her son ended up like pushing my daughter, and I told her, you know, I'm sorry that this is coming out very like angrily, because I still am pretty angry about that. I don't like injustices like that. I just don't. I don't like in the fact that she was telling me that, you know, for my daughter to kind of stick up for herself. I'm just like, dude, she's a girl. And I mean nothing by that negatively. She's just, there's a 2 year, she was 6 at the time, and there's an 8-year-old boy. I don't know if anybody else is a parent out there, especially anybody else with a daughter or a son. I'd like to think that people with sons would understand, like, you have to not hurt girls, like, especially girls that are younger than you. Yeah, you just can't do that. And it was just so, it almost made me cry with how barbaric this lady was kind of approaching the situation, just saying kind of an eye for an eye. You know, these kids got to slug it out in the park, and that's just the way things are, and that's just the way things should be. If your daughter was that upset, she should punch him back or something, or do something about it. And I just was like, how could you teach your son these things? Have you no shame? Have you never been in an altercation? Because I have. My mom didn't teach me to just keep my mouth shut, and I ended up getting jumped in senior year and being put in the emergency room because ended up getting 9 stitches in my eye, you know, in my eyebrow, because some kid just beat the crap out of me. And I literally almost died. I was losing a lot of freaking blood, bleeding out in the parking lot before a construction worker found me and called the ambulance, and the rest was history. But that altercation of me not knowing any better, I could have gotten killed. And that's kind of what hurt me so much too, which is like why certain things are just like you know, and it's just, I couldn't even imagine if I were to post that online and people said, yo, buck up, you know, maybe you should teach your daughter to fight better or something. And I'm just like, it would just break my heart, because I'm just like, I don't want that to happen. I just wish that someone just understand, you know, people can use their words, especially parents can just talk it out. Like, where does this anger and this hostility have to come from? If they would have treated you with respect in the beginning and just said, oh my God, I am so sorry. Do you need a Band-Aid? Here, hold on. Let me call the manager. Hold on. Stay right here. I want to figure this out. You know, this is not okay. Yeah. This cat cannot be doing this, you know? But instead of them just saying you should have known better, like, don't put your dog down. It's no big deal. Get out of the store, move on. We got next customers. That's kind of it's. I just wish that people would just treat situations with more empathy, more, you know, just better.
Yeah, I don't know. And I guess that's like at the end of the day, when you look back and you're like, okay, well, what did you expect? What did you want them to do? I guess that was just it. Just be a little bit more understanding, and
because if that was Oreo would have gone. I would have smacked the shit out of Oreo if he did that to anybody. Yeah. I would have been like, "What do you need from me? What, like, do you? I will pay for your cab ride. I will pay you to go to the emergency room right here, right now. Yeah. This is not okay. This is not acceptable. My dog, when I get home, he's going to get punished. Believe me, after the smack that he received, he's going to get punished, because that is not acceptable." And
like dogs, if they bite somebody, that's it. They
could die. So you know, that's kind of a glimpse of what I would have done in that situation. And that's just, I couldn't believe that, you know, that they responded that way.
I just wanted them to do is like, yo, just watch out. Like, either just warn other people that, hey, like, you have a cat that's in there that doesn't like other animals, or just, I don't know, just be a little bit nicer. That was just it, maybe. And that's why I was coming from like such an angry place, just like you. Same reason, just be a little bit more caring or understanding, or that's it. that's it. And maybe it wouldn't have gone to the lengths that it did, but here we are talking about it still. But it's all right, because I think that, like I was telling my grandma, it kind of just gave me another set of tools to put in my toolbox, because this is not going to be the first time that I speak my mind about something that other people don't agree with, or other people bash me for, or whatever the case may be. And I will be doing everything out of kindness, out of selflessness, out of love,
Just
and
just human decency and just respect.
yeah.
You know, that's at the end of it. That's the root of all kindness, right? That's the root of all, graciousness, right? It's just that mutual respect for one another, and what people deserve,
And with that kid in the playground, I would hope that, because I remember you
I
had
just
said, like,
honestly, I
hey,
just hope
is
that
it
kid
okay
gets.
if like he just like apologizes, because
Yeah,
that's
and
what
then
you should teach
and
your
I did,
kids.
and she said, "Nope,"
And that,
because
yeah.
your daughter did. Why should he apologize for something your daughter did to him? And I said, "Yo, who?" Like, I was like, "Oh, you're like, what? We're parents. What?
Yeah.
What?
Because here's the thing,
What
like,
are you like?
when I
Like
think
a
about it,
child? What?"
what happens if Maya did know how to fight back, and what happens if she smacked the kid
What's
in the
gonna happen?
balls?
What's gonna happen is that kid's gonna get his fucking neck rocked, like legit. If his mother teaches him to do that, like me, that's why I brought up that story.
Yeah.
He is going to get the crap kicked out of him one day based on that, and his mommy isn't gonna save him. Which is why I'm teaching my daughter to be able to use her words, to be able to not get in physical altercations. I'm teaching her that no matter how big, no matter how strong she is, there will always be somebody stronger and not afraid, even more, that even less than she is, about an altercation. And she will get herself into really big trouble. And I won't be there to save her. So it's in her best interest to just communicate, express your feelings. Maybe it gets intense and stuff, but just try and let cooler heads prevail. And that's the best you can do. But like I said, that lady and that boy, I pray for them. I pray for them. What's it? I have mercy on the sorry soul who are going to put them in their place one day, because that's just how the world works. Because I was put in my place when I was a little dickhead kid running my mouth. I was definitely put in my place, and I got a huge slice of humble cake. And after that, no more talk about
and
me.
you have to like see that in the mirror every single day.
Hell yeah, that shit hurt.
You have a scar.
I have a scar. Yep. Anyway, sorry for all this emotional. As for me, a little bit more of a tone and anger overlays. It's just something that I struggle with. I struggle with trying to do the better. I struggle with trying to find ways to enable the cooler heads to prevail. And when times like when family gets hurt or involved in something, it's like my kryptonite. I try so hard to just take deep breaths. That it's because I too I struggle very much with my emotions, but I'm really trying to work on that for the sake of my daughter and just showing how somebody can weather the storm and just be a role model. That's all. Just try and be a role model.
Poor little Maya. That night, I was in the room, and I had got off the phone with my mom, and she was so sick, and she comes and she's like, "What happened?" And like I was like putting a alcohol swab on the bite and the cuts and everything, and I was like, "I got bit by a cat." She's like, "Oh," and then she just turned around and went back to bed. She was just, I don't think she even realized what happened until the next day we had talked about it, and I brought her, no, the next day she stayed home from school, and she was really just hanging in her room all day because she was so tired and still not feeling good. But we talked about it a little bit on the following day on the way to school, and I just told her, like, I'm afraid, like, I don't know what to think right now about people, about animals, about everything. And it was really nice. It was nice just to have a conversation with her because I felt so vulnerable and nervous even just walking to school with her because I had just really come from a place where I just want to stay in bed. I don't want to go outside. I don't want to deal with people. I don't want to have any kind of interactions with anybody. And because I was paranoid for the next few days, but it was nice being able to talk it through with Maya because she was kind of just like, well, why would you feel like that? Just asking these broad questions of maybe not understanding, but it kind of helped me understand why and maybe explain a little bit more too. But yeah, I think this week will definitely be a better week, and
we're gonna finally have the video for this podcast up and running, hopefully by next week. So I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, we have everything.
I gotta go running. Gotta get in shape.
Gotta get rid of this double chin.
Triple chin. Triple.
But alright, guys. Thanks for letting us
vent to you.
Vent. Yes.
It's very helpful.
Definitely. And we will see you next time.
Yep. Peace.
I was going to say on Life of the Lost.
On Life of the Lost. Peace.